Everybody, if you could please rise, face the flag, the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Awesome. Good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining our council meeting this afternoon. First thing on the agenda is the approval of September 22 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the September 22 meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve the September 2022 meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
My second.
All in favor? All right, unanimous. Very good, Tony. Next on the agenda is the approval of September's financial report. For everybody in the audience, what you're seeing right there is our 5 accounts that the town has. And those are the balances as of today. So I was just talking to Dawn, and she's done a phenomenal on this report. This is one of my major concerns is balancing our expenditures and revenue, things like that. It's all laid out. I've identified a couple things that are missing. She's telling me that some of these checks have not cleared, so I've just identified. You'll see, and from the numbers, like the first one, 2336 is not on here. The Randy Williams, everybody's fully aware, that's the painting of the town hall. The Ace Hardware is our maintenance contractor, purchases things for the parks and the bathrooms, things like that. Dawn now receives those invoices. We're showing the Heritage Days booth rentals and any refunds. Dawn breaks down her office supplies for running the town. As you can see in here, she identifies and breaks down everything that she's purchased. If there's any questions, just let me know. For one of the improvements of the town, she purchased a used changing table for the female restroom. If you have infants. I thought that was a great addition, and that was her idea, so I appreciate that. It was awesome.
It was Michelle from the Chamber's idea.
Yeah. This 2042 is Card Services Center, so for we approved for Dawn to have a credit card for in-town purchases, approved by myself, but she had to do the Microsoft update on her computer. That's a yearly fee of $99, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. And then at the end, our local option sales tax deposit of $10,000. And please remind me again, Don, that's going to be moved from general operating to, no, that's staying, that's right.
Yeah.
What was the one that you said?
That was
something had to be moved?
one, I don't know if it's actually on this statement. The American Rescue Plan that you see up there for 13,257, That first deposit was made back in July of
Yes.
'21. And we had another deposit, and I wasn't sure where to put it. I put it in the general account. Well, after doing some research, I found out that is supposed to go in the American Rescue Plan bank account. So I'm gonna have to withdraw from the one, but I was waiting until after this meeting, so.
So you're gonna draw it from the general operating account and put it in the American Rescue Plan, and that was estimated what, how much?
It's exactly that same
Oh,
13,257.
13,257. So that'll be 27 or 26,5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I guess it's COVID relief
Yep.
fund or something.
As you can see, the 4 accounts, we have our general operating account, the 4 accounts haven't changed since January, so. But the American Rescue Plan will be. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the September 2022 financial report?
A motion that we approve the 2022 financial report.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Okay. Summary of maintenance. Jerry is not here today, right?
Right,
So he's doing maintenance.
I am.
There's no issues.
No, he just replaced some faucets, soap dispensers, photo cell for the lights. He went around, treated weeds with Roundup, and he's in the process of repairing the benches in the front of the town hall. He got the wood for that yesterday, and yeah, so that can be done by Heritage Day.
Awesome. We had, a couple months ago, or last month, I can't remember, we had approved for the stalls to be repaired in the public restrooms. There's a discrepancy, it was last month. The estimate has increased because we had an old estimate of last March. So I'm going to reach out and see if we can negotiate, come up with a compromise on that, see if we can come up with an understanding. Once we get that fixed, we'll get that solidified. Unfortunately, that will not be before Heritage Days, so we'll get it as soon as possible. Next is old business, Heritage Days update.
Okay, well, we're down to the wire. It's Heritage Days is next weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And things are really coming along very well. At this point, well, we're done accepting vendors. We have 61 vendors total, and Dawn has informed me that we've actually turned away a few. For this year, we have all of their names and information, because next year, of course, it will grow. We've had 3 cancellations due to conflicting obligations, family illnesses, and that type of thing. Of the 61 vendors, 14 are food vendors. So we're really in good shape as far as vendors go. I've already reported on our sponsorship between cash donations and in-kind donations. We're at a total of $6,825 incoming, and that's just the donations. That doesn't include all of our vendors. We have a very nice program planned. Saturday we have the Color Guard, and then Rusted Melody Band, Patton Childers Band, and Brett Cantrell. And then Sunday morning, we do have a non-denominational prayer service and donuts and coffee from 8:30 until 9. And then we have a band called Just Because. They play bluegrass. They're going to do a little bit of gospel. Loose Shoes Band, which is a really fun band, and the Orange Walls. We've got classic tractors coming in, a classic car, and an excavator is going to be on board to showcase what they do and let the kids play with it a little bit, not turn it on, climb on it. We are doing quite well with volunteers I think we're good to go with volunteers. Jeannie Bryant is helping to organize, and we just have to slot them in. But we're good with volunteers. Mary Libsey is going to be taking some photos for us during the event, and we have a drone operator Sunday to take some drone footage for us. We have several ads placed. We've placed an ad in the Pickens Progress that is out today. And then the Chamber of Commerce is also placing an ad in the Pickens Progress for us next week as well. We have an ad in the Gilmer County Times-Courier this week. We've got a really nice two-page ad, if you will, article in the Pickens Progress Fall Festivals Guide. They did a really beautiful job for us in that, so you all should have that. And we have extra copies that are here at the town hall, and also we place them in the brewery because we get more traffic over at the brewery than we do at town hall, so we figured it was logical to put them there. The Chamber of Commerce also, we have an ad in their new Pickens County activity guide, and that just dropped. So the town of Talking Rock has an ad, and it mentions Heritage Days. We have street signs placed all around Talking Rock and Jasper, and we continue to do social media, and our posts are being shared, really a lot of shares. So the word is getting out. So I anticipate having a good crowd. The duck race, we're going to evaluate the duck race next week because the weather, we can't help what Mother Nature does, and we've been very, very dry here, so the creek is very low and it's not really moving. So we're going to evaluate that. If we have to postpone the duck race, we will do so and incorporate it with some other activities that we've got planned for the future, perhaps an Easter egg hunt or something like that. But we'll evaluate that. So I think we're in really good shape, and we are in such good shape because of all of the committee members and non-committee members, just the community that's really pitched in to help us plan this event and to do all the work. And I'm the co-chair who gets to do the reports, but my other co-chair, Tony Hawf, is the man behind the scenes, and I really want to thank Tony for doing all that he's done. He has he works nonstop. I don't know when he sleeps. Really, he's been taking the lead to be sure that the grounds of the festival are ready. He and Dan Brigantini, for example, have worked for the past several days amping up the electrical system. They added circuits, they're adding outlets to be sure that the infrastructure for all of our vendors who are requiring power have enough power. And they've framed in a roof over the stage so that our entertainment and our MC, if it does rain, don't get rained on. They've put power over there too so that the sound system and the lighting system all have appropriate power. So they've done a phenomenal job, and all of their work has really the professional labor that they've put into it equals thousands of dollars. So thank you, Tony, and your crews. And I also want to just thank Dawn, because Dawn, when she interviewed for this job, I don't think she had any clue that she was going to get tossed into the midst of Heritage Days planning.
No.
And besides learning her new job and organizing the town's computer and paper files, she's also been my right-hand person in organizing all the little details. So thank you to Dawn. And again, just everybody has pitched in so much. So I think it's going to be a really great event. We're going to be crowded, but I think we're good to go.
It's awesome. Yeah, just to echo what has been said, the volunteers have been phenomenal here. As you can see, this past week, the sheds were cleaned out over at the the elementary school. As you can see, we did a cleanup for that. I wanted to thank the Pickens County Chamber, Michelle. They really helped us out a lot just with orchestrating and giving us mentorship for helping out in our Heritage Days and helping out all our great folks that have been helping to develop and plan. They did us a great deal on the hay that we have laid out already, so we've already started for the festival. So I really appreciate it, and everybody has done a phenomenal job, and it shows. Again, as we talked about, more people are involved this year, and there's new, bright ideas, and I think it's going to be very successful, and I'm pretty excited about the whole event. So. Okay. All right. Next is the 2022 approved budget. We approved the budget last month. Oh, yeah. For the folks that weren't here, we had published our approved budget for the year and voted on it, so there was no issues with that. Okay, next, for new business, we'll go right into it. We have the privilege today to have both the Pickens County Fire Chief, Tim Prather, and our Talking Rock Fire Chief, Larry Keener, both here. I believe so. They're around the corner.
They are.
They are.
You guys can come up. I know there's been several questions about our current ISO rating, so I've asked the big guns to come in and talk about currently what's going on with the rating, and then for Larry to give us a little history of our Talking Rock Fire Department. Gentlemen, first.
They don't want. Those that know me, I am Tim Prather. I'm the Pickens County Fire Chief. I'm sitting back there trying to think of where to go with this first, and I'm going to try to cover the brief history of the fire service here in Pickens County to try to get us to where we are today. You know, I was born and raised in this county, and I grew up in a firefighting family. To be honest with you, I was running fire calls when I was probably 10 years old. I was jumping in the car with my dad and going with him on fires. Back in the day, we didn't have 911. So when a fire would come in at the city fire station, they would call one of the volunteers' wives, and she'd go down the list calling all the firefighters' house. So I knew when the phone rang at 1 o'clock in the morning what that was. So I'd be up and ready to go before my dad was, and I got to go on fire calls. But, you know, up until we're getting into the 70s, there was really no county fire service here in Pickens County. The only fire departments that I can remember as a kid is the city of Jasper had a fire department. Tate community had a fire truck down there, had a little mini pumper that I can remember. They had an older truck than that. And that was it in Pickens County. Now the city's always had a one-paid firefighter on duty since I can remember. And they had volunteers that helped them. And they had one truck at that time that had 500 gallons of water on it. And that thing would run all over this county, and they would be out of water quick. We didn't have tankers or anything. But that's what the city had. But they had that one truck, and they had fire hydrants in the city, and it worked good for them. But as far as the county, usually anything in the county burned up before that truck got there. And that's just how it was up through the 70s. I graduated high school in '77, went in the Marine Corps, and come out in 1980 off active duty. And the fire service really hadn't changed much then. So it was during the 80s where the community started coming together and forming their own fire department. And this was people just like y'all sitting here today forming these fire departments. They wanted some fire protection in their communities because anything that caught fire, you know, back in the 70s, Georgia Forestry was here in the county. They would send out a bulldozer and they'd cut a line around a house, and that was it. I mean, there was no saving homes in the 70s or before that. So communities started building fire departments in the 80s. By the time you get to the end of the 80s, and probably we'll go into 1990, Bethany Salem Fire Department was the last volunteer fire department that formed, and I was one of the founding members of that one. But it was community members that built them fire departments. There was nothing, the county had nothing to do with them. We had no support. I think we had a population of maybe 10 to 12,000 people in the county then. So there was no financial support. So I don't know how many yard sales, raffles, I mean, you name it. It was on us. Now, when we got toward the end of the 80s, the county started giving us, if we go beg, we'd get a little money. And they got to the point where they tried to be consistent to where if you wanted to build a fire station, the county would give you $5,000. And that helped build a station. And that was it. As far as fire trucks, firefighting equipment, we were on our own. We had to come up with that money. All right, so that's how they all started back through the 80s. And during that time, Talking Rock was one of those departments. We had Grandview Fire Department. We got Yellow Creek Fire Department now. But I know right there in the early 80s, and Curtis Clark's in here tonight, he's part of the, we were young bucks back then. But Marble Hill tried to have a fire department over there and it fell apart. I don't know what happened with that. But as far as departments that are still here today, you had Yellow Creek, Tate Community had a volunteer group, and then Bethany Salem. And we all functioned on our own. You know, it was nothing to do with the county. You know, if we had a transmission to go out, we could go beg for money, maybe fix the transmission. But it was basically, we had one out here. We begged people down south to give us equipment. Lockheed was real good about donating bunker gear for us to wear. I know the first truck at Bethany was a 1967 American France that we got in the 2000s. That thing was wore out when we got it. But that's what we all started with, old trucks. I think Talking Rock started out with an old chassis that we got a fire buddy from Georgia Forestry. They had a program that would help us get started. But the whole point of this is to point out that the fire service started by the community. It wasn't started by the county. You know, like I say, the cities had one as far back as I can remember. But it was members coming together in a community building these fire departments. And they were incorporated departments. You had to officially be recognized by the state, so you had your articles of incorporation and you're recognized by the state. So that gets us into the 90s. So as we edge up to the year 2000, you know, we're starting to get a little bit more support from the county. That's the first time in our history that we started not having, I'm going to call it junk. I think we're very fortunate today. We never killed any of these volunteers in our communities in the last 30 years. We had trucks that even I've experienced. I don't know how I got it stopped. You know, coming up on the accident scene, I nearly was part of the accident. They were junk trucks, but you couldn't afford them. We went out and we begged companies that had like Coke truck chassis. We got those kind of chassis done. Whatever we could get, we'd get a truck and we'd put a tank on. And we had water, and we had a little old pump. And believe it or not, we saved some homes with those pieces of junk. As we get into the 2000s, the county starts looking to support us. For the first time in our fire service history, we're starting to see brand new fire trucks. Now back in the day, I think those trucks, the first brand new ones that the county bought, I know Bethany Salem got one, and Tate Community got one. They were going to go buy two at a time. I believe at that time, those trucks were about $150,000, $180,000 a piece. Go buy one of these today, they're going to be about $500,000. I mean, that's what the fire service has got to now. Got the first two, then Hinton got a new truck. Talking Rock, I think, got one in that round. Yellow Creek got a brand new truck, and now we're starting to see new equipment. And I don't know what year that it started. The county has started giving us a little money by the year, and I think today we get a little bit by the month. But I think every station here today, operating today, the county bought the trucks and give these community fire departments. The county insures them, and then we get like a supplement right now. We give them to the volunteer stations.
We have to pay the insurance. Comes out of.
Oh, the VFIS,
Comes out.
right. But
But
the policy's coordinated through the county, but it is a VFIS, you know, it insures all volunteers. But that's how we've got here today, and some don't understand how some of these volunteer fire departments, they think they're county fire departments, and they're not. You know, we've got 4 county stations now that are totally county operated. The only volunteer station, I guess, is Tate. As far as the volunteer groups, that's I think it's the only station that's not operating anymore is a volunteer station. But we still have 4 or 5 community fire departments today. Talking Rock is one of them. We have this one. We have one up on the mountain on Monument Road. It's called Wildcat. Yellow Creek over on Yellow Creek Road. That's totally volunteer. and then Hinton Fire Department in Bethany, Salem on the south, or on the west and southwest side. So we still have community fire departments operating today. It's valuable to us. I don't know if you keep up with, well, really it's in general across the board, just help in general today. You know, I can tell you as a career fire chief, I've got 13 openings today for career firefighters. Back when I got out of the Marine Corps in 1980, you couldn't buy a job. I went down and put an application in against 1,500 other employees or candidates to be an employee. Today, every fire department around us has got vacancies. Same thing with volunteer organizations. It is on decline across the nation. Some volunteer fire departments are just folding up. It's just too much. And so it's just a different society and generation that we're dealing with in the workforce in general. And in the volunteer segment of our community, it's hitting us hard. And that's what's happened here, talking on it, is it's hard to get any volunteers anymore. And we're really dependent on that. And if I'm missing something to get us to that point, today we are operating 4 stations with career guys. If I'm at full staff, I've got 42 career folks spread over 3 shifts. Those folks do staff the ambulances as well. So we're staffing 4 ambulances and we're trying to keep 4 engines staffed. Those guys do support this community. They support all the other volunteer communities. Whenever there's a fire, these career guys is going to support the volunteers. We're all working with each other.
So that is the main reason for the increase in the ISO rating is the lack of having volunteers supporting.
That's one of the big reasons, but it also has a lot to do with water supply, the way they grade you. And on the last go around, they hit us hard on chicken houses. People here in talking around don't realize we've got 20-something chicken houses in our jurisdiction we're responsible for. That is a large commercial structure. And when the county ran the water lines, they ran small water lines to feed all these roads. And the guy kept making me go back and do flow tests on the ones at the chicken houses. So they really penalized us on that. But I wanted to kind of fill them in too, like on some of the new members of the city council about the history of this fire station. I'm the only original member left, 37 years. A lot of them have passed on. We started out with 16 members, and a large portion of those people have already passed on because they were older people when we started out. Good people. We've had a lot of good people here. We went through, I've seen a lot of people come through here, and it's a stepping stone, full-time department. We went through training with a lot of people, but once they start, they move up to a full-time station, and they work one job, and a lot of them take 2 jobs. A lot of them now that used to be here work 2 full-time jobs. And when they do that, they don't have much time for their families and to volunteer. And when the gas got so high, $4 a gallon, you expect these young kids to go out here and spend $4 a gallon, fill up their car to volunteer to go to a fire or a wreck. But we cover, in our jurisdiction, we have to cover wrecks, and we cover as many as EMS calls as we can to help out unloading these people. We're first responders, first on the scene. It's close for us. And we try to stabilize the patient until the EMTs get there, and we help load them. And on the wrecks, we do a lot of the traffic control. Here a few weeks ago, we had a wreck over here. Tim was with us. To give you an example of what we do. There was a guy pinned under a truck, head-on collision right here on Millage Road. Most of you probably didn't hear about it. 3 vehicles. One was a lady and a kid, head-on collision. Guy flipped over, he was pinned under the truck. So luckily Glenn picked up engine 70 here, come in from work, he was on the scene. We pulled the hydraulic pump off, so we was able to get pressure real quick. We got our spreaders on one side. The county got their spreader, DC spreader, ours gas, but we got DC spreaders on our responder truck also. So anyway, we was able to lift the truck up off the guy and get him out. So that was a good recovery. We had to shut the whole road down. It was shut down for a pretty good while. But a lot of these people think, since we're a fire department, we mostly cover fires. But the good thing about it, we don't have a lot of structure fires in our jurisdiction. Because last inspection, I could not show him where we had a structure fire. We went through the county. We had a lot of automatic aid for Station 6 and 5, but they wouldn't let us count that. And another thing they really gigged us on is they want me to assure them that we're gonna have 4 volunteer firefighters on every structure fire. I can't lie to them and guarantee them that. Now, we do have 4 new recruits. We have 2 that went through Cherokee County's recruit school, so they're certified now. So we're bringing them on. We got to get training up, our hours up, to try to get another inspection. And then we got to do tests on all of our hydrants again. But the problem with our water situation is our water comes from Gordon County, most of it. We do have a tap in off Jones Mountain now. But when they run it under full pressure, it blows all the lines up. So they had to put pressure release on the Gilbert County side, because my son-in-law works for Gilbert County. That's supposed to help us out a lot, but when you got small water lines, we don't have a lot of pressure and we don't have a lot of flow. So the guy that did an inspection from the state of Georgia told me that with our water system, we might as well not have a water system for fighting fire. We can fill up our trucks, pretty much. But if one of these buildings catches on fire right here in town, we're gonna have to shovel water. Because it's going to be hard to really get enough water to really attack them sufficiently. But one of these tall buildings, they're probably calling it a ladder truck. It takes a lot of water. So once we hook to these hydrants, it's going to suck the water out of this whole area. So nobody's going to have no water once we're fighting a fire. Because we're going to be sucking them pumps to pump a lot of water. And when it runs out of water, it's going to start sucking air. But some of these hydrants, we got some in the chicken house. We got one up here that when you turn it wide open, the water comes out that far. So that's not a lot of pressure. And it's hard for us to fight fires with that. Now, they're looking at tying in another line off of my road up on Mount Pisgah Round Top. They're going to bring in another Gilbert County line, and they're going to tap in up there, which should help us out a lot because that's closer in Gordon County. And it's really closer coming in off Jones Mountain. So that's a small line that comes across 136. They do have a pumping station over there, but the little pumping station, all it's for, from what I understand from the county guy, is for a subdivision over on Jones Mountain Road, just to boost the water so then people got some water up on top of the mountain. So it don't help us a whole lot. The county water guy told me that the only way we're going to have much water in Talking Rock is they can ever put a tank over here, and that's $1 million. And he didn't think that's going to happen. Anyway, so $1 million is a lot of money for a tank. But I'm going to give you the history real quick on our fire department. We got certified in February 24th, 1986, certification with our fire department. We had our own building over here beside the creek. That's where we started out at. The city wanted to start a park, so we worked out a deal with the city that we'd give up our building, and they wanted to remodel this building. And I recommended against it because this is a 100-year-old building. The blocks are deteriorated all around the bottom. You have a moat system in here now that controls the water. When it rains a lot, the water still comes through the wall, into the moat, goes to the corner, and it sucks it out with a pump, pumps it out of the building. It works very efficient. We have a unit in there to keep the humidity down. That door really needs to stay open when you're not having meetings in here. This is our training room for the fire department. We worked a deal with the city. 2 of our guys signed a loan, $25,000 to remodel this side of the building for the fire department. From here over is the fire department. From there over is City Hall. So you're sitting in our training room. Do you remember that, Linda? Okay. You're the only one old enough to remember that here.
Thank you.
But anyway, we work real good together. We've always worked real good with City Council. We help them out, they help us out. Now, several years ago, they did vote, City Council, to help us out each month with a small check. We got one check. Never got 1 cent. But we don't, no big deal. The county helps us out as far as paying our fuel, help us pay our fuel, and our insurance. And we have to keep our own trucks up. They belong to the county, but we do the maintenance on them and we pay for the repairs on them. So if we tear them up, we got to fix them. But we, like Tim said, we've come a long ways. I mean, we used to have a knocker. And we'd go to a fire, we'd have to get out on the back of the truck and crank the pump with a pull rope. And the first fire we had with that thing, it wouldn't pump water and the house burned down. It had a rock in the impeller shaft. So that was, those were made by the forestry. I'll take what I hadn't covered. I'm trying to give you as much of the history on the fire department as I can. We got 2 trucks. We got the Mack that carries 1,500 gallons of water. We got the International that carries 1,000 gallons. Right now, our Pittman orange seal is out on 70. It's out for repairs. We use 70 as a wreck truck. We go to the wrecks because it's got the hydraulic tubes, but we also have 2 responder trucks. We have a Super Duty that is our primary rescue truck. We have DC hydraulic tubes on it. We have a wide assortment of rescue. We got all kind of ropes that we can use to help rescue people. We use stuff on when people's lost. We also get involved with the sheriff department if anybody's lost in the county. We go help them as much as we can. We get called out at all hours. These old pagers, when they go off, if it's a structure fire, we try to respond. We usually respond automatic aid with Station 6, which is Hinton, 5, which is Grandview. If it's automatic aid, they drop tones on us for Gilmer County. We also cover Gilmer County, and they cover us if they need us. And I have one as far as, I got off of Pickens County Fire several years ago, and I went all the way to North Gilmer County to fight a house that was probably 5,000 square feet. And they probably had 30 firefighters there. So Pickens County went to help cover that. And they come help us too, if we need them. All 911, if we, like for instance, if we have something on the border, all I have to do is call 911 and tell them to drop tones. And they'll drop tones. So they'll come in. And the good thing about it with these Macks, we got a lot of tanker trucks. So if we don't have enough water in an area, they start shuttling. So they'll send as many tankers as we need. So they'll line up out here and they'll start pumping. They'll have a main pump truck and then they'll relay, pumping that water. It's just the fact is that we just don't have a whole lot of water. I'm hoping when they do the other tap in, I'm hoping it's really going to boost our water supply. Because these guys, when they come in to grade us and they see our flow test, first thing they say is that can't be right. I said, well, you know, that's what we got. But we can get the county to test them sometime, just to compare them with ours, just to make sure they're correct. Yeah, we got one just right out here on the next street going up the hill. Don't get much water out of it. So when these structures catches on fire, we just don't have a whole lot of water to attack it with. So we're going to have to line up as many tankers as we can just to hit it. And something the people in the city need to do is they need to keep a lot of fire extinguishers in their businesses. You need to have one readily available. Because if it's a trash can fire or a grease fire or something, you're in control. When some of us get there, the county gets there. Which they got people in the stations, they should be there before us. But we get there when we can. But just keep in mind, these guys get paid, we don't. We're volunteers. Like I say, I've been volunteer for 37 years. And just like when Randy put this thing in here, he said, oh, it's not going to make no difference till you training room. Well, we invested $25,000 in this side of the building. And we keep losing parts of it. So, and we're volunteers, so we don't have to show up. These guys have to show up, we don't, since we're volunteers. So we're going to try to keep showing up. And we're going to try to keep working with the city best we can. But it would help if you keep infringing on our side, at least get our permission on some of this stuff. Because this used to be our water map, and it disappeared. This went up. We got cameras on our side. Nobody asked us about it. So just keep that in mind, and Linda knows about it. We got a long-standing agreement with the city, and we've got a good standing with it, and we hope to keep it that way. But just keep in mind, we're volunteers. We don't get paid. So we can leave when we want to, and we can shut it down when we want to. We don't never have to come back. So don't get us too upset. But anyway, that's all I got to say. Anybody got any questions about the fire department?
I'd like to follow up kind of with what you asked. I reviewed the last ISO review, and water is a component of that. And the score, you know, following their guidelines, the points was there, and I don't understand why it went to a class 10. That's what people are asking about. We're getting the calls too about their insurance. I'll be honest with you up front, I'm not a fond supporter of ISO. You know, the insurance companies will tell you in one hand that they don't use ISO anymore. But then when something goes on like this, well, your ISO score, so it's like, insurance companies make it racket at times. But anyway, the points was there, and I reached out to my team that I used to have down in Cherokee. For those that don't know, I retired from Cherokee, and I asked her to look over this thing, and the only thing that we can see, the lowest score on that was staffing. And my understanding, really, all you had here for the last year or so was just Glenn and Larry, and 2 people. Is that correct?
Well, we've had 4 most of the time, but during the COVID, we ended up losing 2 more. We had one guy move to Jasper. And that hurts us, people keep moving, especially when you have like COVID or something. Like one guy moved to South Georgia, and when they move out, it's hard to get back to replace them because, like I say, when gas got up so high and all, it's hard to ask these people to spend that kind of money to respond free. They don't get paid. And to go in a burning building, when you don't know when the roof's gonna fall in, and you don't get paid, that's tough. I'm 67 years old, and I think about it sometimes. Because I've been going there a long time. And I'm just tickled that still be here, but it's working out okay. It's just, we gotta build ourselves back up, and I've been checking on the internet about volunteer stations in the state of Georgia. They just all been falling because they can't get volunteers. A lot of the older people are just getting to the age where they can't do it anymore. And they're the reliable ones. We had 2 kids we got into class back a few months ago. One of them quit the first night, and one of them didn't last the first week. And one of them said it was too difficult to put the gear on. So
It is a calling, but where we're at today, we do know the ISO has issued a class 10 for this area. And the lowest score we got on there, and it's under what's called the deployment analysis. It's when they look at, you get your truck out the door, you training your folks, and that's the one component of the entire formula that looks like if we're going to try to get this back anytime soon, it's going to be in the staffing. We got to get the personnel up. That's the quickest area of points that we're going to be able to get. So I've been working with Larry and Glenn, and I've reached out, and it seemed like the more I reach out, we got a lot of career people that does live in this area. It's hard to get career guys to come in and volunteer, but I got 2 that showed up from Cherokee. That's career, and there's a couple more that I've talked with that said they're willing to step up. So we're probably already back up to 6 or 8, maybe.
we got 2 from Bed Tree that's going up with us also.
Maybe looking at
They're
8.
already certified.
8 or 10 maybe in the next few weeks or months, if we can get this going, show a pattern that we're training, and the guys are getting in here and we're reporting it to the state, et cetera, et cetera. That's the quickest way that we can get back and get a good ISO rating, is get the people in here and show the interest in. And it's tough. It's tough to stay in time to get volunteers. But right now, if I kind of capitalizing on these career folks, they're getting training. In my understanding, if you got a career man that works at another department, you can use 50% of his training hours for credit for this department. So that's huge, the more career people that we can recruit in to volunteer. And then the key thing will be to get these fire trucks out the door when there's a fire. That's really all ISO looks at, is the fires. They don't really look at your EMS calls, they don't even look at your car accidents. They want to know about your fires. So that's the key thing, is getting these trucks out the door when there's fires. So it's getting the personnel in here and getting these trucks rolling. We understand, and I'll acknowledge what he said. More than likely, the career guys are going to get here quick because they're in the station ready to go. The volunteers have got to come from home, get in the trucks and go. And a lot of times, sometimes, depending on where it's at, they'll get there at the same time. But still, they want to see these trucks out the door. That's ISO. And then to make sure that when we call them back in here, and again, when I say we, I'm working with him. This is talking about volunteer fire department. To be able to show them, we're getting it out the door. And we've got these career people coming in here and support. We've got to make sure that we're showing that these folks are on the scene. Because they're counting the number of bodies on your fire scene. They want to know how many people you got there. And it ain't just the bodies either. Now show us your training records. That's huge. And there's breakdowns on the training. They want company officer training, driver's training, firefighter training. You've got to show that. They've got categories that they come down and they score you on that. That was the lowest scored Talking Rock had in the ISO analysis, and that was on the deployment and the personnel. That's the key component. Water is one also. I'm not going to downplay water. That's huge. We need water. But at the same time, we got tankers all over this county. We show we're bringing them tankers in here, that helps with ISO. We got 3,000 gallon tankers sitting in these career stations. We got 1,500 in every one of the volunteer stations. So we got a lot of water we can move. And that's what we have to show them. But the key thing to work on right now, even with the state, you've got to show a minimum of 4 people on the roster that is registered with the state, certified. So we got to make sure we got that, or you lose state compliance. So I even talked with Larry about where we're at with that. They want you to have 6, but 4 is the minimum. And you got to have 24 hours of annual training to stay certified. That's the state requirements. You know, the state, if ISO comes in here and says you're not even compliant with the state, they're going to axe it. You know, we had the point. You had the points with ISO as far as scoring. Even with the water situation, you had the points, but the deployment analysis is what gigged it. Is all we can come up with. You didn't have the personnel, you know, reflecting that on that. So that's what I'm working with Larry with. Get the personnel up, get a pattern of training going, that when we call them back in here, we can show, hey, we've got it back up. You know, we had the points before, it was just personnel. We can show we got the personnel. Hopefully by September of next year, we can get it reversed, hopefully. I can't stand here and promise that. But it's working together, and actually it's the community. This is the community fire department. The community needs to support this fire department. You know, I think he'll tell you, if you're good at working books, who's done, we're done. There's something, if somebody wants to volunteer, there's something that's needed in a volunteer organization. Working the books, scheduling training, somebody looking over the maintenance. There's something that's not, you don't have to be fighting fire. Let the young bucks get on that nozzle and fight the fire. Just being out in the yard and taking them an axe to the front door. Help total out of the front door. There's things people can do other than just going in and fighting the fire. Usually your younger guys won't do that anyway. So if you got any questions, I mean, that's it in brief where we're at. Right now it's the staffing thing I think we've got to work on. I've talked with Larry and Glenn both. Seems like I've known them all their lives. So Larry might be older than me. But we're all some of the older folks that's been here from the beginning, from back when we didn't have anything. These guys know that there was nothing in talking on. You know, they started this place, just like I started Bethany Salem. Curtis is big and Tate Clark sitting back there. We've all put our time in. We're getting old. You know, this generation, we loved it. You know, we wanted to help people. It's sad, but I don't see that in the next generations coming up, and I don't know where we're going to be. I know that's back in the time when we didn't have these. You know, we wanted to do something. Even he was a volunteer at one time. That was something to do in the community when there was nothing else going on. The fire station was it. It's not like that anymore. You got these phones, you got computer games. I was 15 years old when I fought my first fire on the nozzle. I had to be with my dad because I was eat up with it. I'll be honest with you, I was eat up. Curtis remembers, it was at Jasper, that the chief finally let me join at age 15. And I was on a structure fire with my dad backing me up, fighting fire at age 15. Well, I loved it. I challenge you to find a 15-year-old today that would have that kind of drive to want to do something like that. And it's on us to try to reach out to them. We've got to come up with a different approach to these young folks to get in, even to the career service. It's a job now. And I worry about the departments, not just here, but across the county, state, and the nation. That's totally volunteer. South Georgia, they're getting hammered. You know, it's all volunteer. So, is there anything else I can get some? I'm open for questions.
I have a quick question.
Yes,
So the
ma'am.
people that are calling me are basically asking about timeline. So you said September of next year is as soon as you'd
Goal.
possibly be able to.
All I can
reverse?
base that on is I got a lot of friends outside the county, and I talked with the Fannin County Fire Chief, and they lost theirs a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago. He said it was a lot of work, but you can get it back. They got theirs back within 12 months. So if we really work at it and work with ISO, our local rep comes out of Roswell. I've got to have Larry's permission to work with them. No, they won't talk with me. I got to get his permission for them to talk with me, but to see what do you want? 'Cause that's going to be the guy or gal, whoever it is, that says this is what I need out of it. So it's working with them. I'm being optimistic. I think we could within 12 months do what they're wanting to see. I can't promise that, but I think we can. 12 months or less, but I'm gonna say 12 months, mostly because good friends with Fire Chief and Fanning, and that's what they went through. I reached out to him, tell me what you dealt with. He said, it's a lot of work, but you can do it. Took us about 12 months. So that's what I based that on, was just talking with him.
What can we do as a council or in the community to help the volunteer fire department?
Let's recruit people that's interested. We'd love to get some that's already certified, because we don't have many classes going on to get people certified. We used to have them pretty regular, but they don't have much anymore. Unless they go down to Forsyth, go through the class down there.
It's hard now. Back when we got in it, there wasn't a lot of requirements, you know, and it's got more specialized than ever now. I think now you send somebody down the academy, it's like an 8 or 9 week program.
300 something hours.
Used to, it was a 40-hour program. It had different names. I know Mod 1, 2, and 3 is the most recent one I remember, but there was something even before that. But it's so specialized now at the state level at their requirements that it's hard. And that's caused some of the troubles, you know, keeping volunteers.
Yeah,
People's
people's
got full-time jobs. You just can't take off several weeks, tell your employer, well, I'm going to take a firefighting class.
We'll come back to a job.
Yeah.
You got a question?
I was just gonna say, obviously, the town people are impacted by it, but I also know that I think some of the surrounding county
Yes.
are also. Do you know what the radius is, approximately?
We're going to try to take, I've been asked that a bunch, to be honest with you, for those that are getting hammered with the insurance. I had one lady that lives on Swan Bridge, and she's actually closer to Hinton than she is here. So I guess the insurance company give her credit for Station 6 over there. We set those districts, gosh, 20 years ago. I don't even think we modified them at all, or anything since maybe 30 years ago. And again, that's when it was just community. We didn't have a county fire service.
Right.
It was just a gentleman's agreement, hey, we'll cover to here,
Right.
we'll cover to here. And it was, I think it was basically based on who could get there the quickest.
Mhm.
Sometimes the closest is not the quickest.
Right.
And I think that's kind of how they drew them lines then. But now we got GPS, which you didn't have then. We can look at those distances and see what's going to work better. But there's a big portion right here. This station goes all the way to the county line.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just city residents. It affects everybody in this area.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's the reason I'm here. Council, any questions?
I appreciate it, gentlemen. Very, very informative. I've learned a lot just in this last 30 minutes. Thank you for your information. And for the citizens, we'll keep you updated once both our Talking Rock Fire Chief and the county's Fire Chief gives us information. We'll definitely pass it on to the community.
Yeah, if people have any questions, they can call me anytime, and I'll answer what I can. I mean, I'm not the smartest guy, but I've had a little practice at it.
And from the county level, we are committed. We're going to work with it. We're going to get back as quick as we can get it. I just wish I could give you some good concrete timelines.
Is there I thought I heard somebody say something like that some insurance companies will accept some kind of a letter that has a generic timeline of when you think, no?
I don't know anybody that would. It's
Okay.
whatever it is today is what most of them, they play hardball.
Yeah, that was, the one lady said that her insurance company said that if you could give her a letter with a timeline, because hers tripled, she said. She just renewed and it tripled without it. And I told her to come tonight and, but I don't see her. But,
If I was that
She said a
decision
letter.
maker, I could give you a timeline, but there's no way I'll put my name on
right,
a piece of paper saying, hey, because I don't know. It's all of the eyes.
That's just like that last inspector, 37 years, we've never had a guy to ask, or to tell us that we need to guarantee we're going to have 4 people, volunteers, on a structure fire. I work around Atlanta every day. Glenn works in Forsyth. We don't even live in this area. I live in Gilmer County. Glenn lives in Station 6 area. We only got one new recruit that lives in the Talking Rock area. So you see what I'm saying?
yeah.
We volunteer for these people in this community and we don't even live here.
Mm.
37 years I've not lived here.
We appreciate it.
But back in the day, we would cover up to my road, which was a 5-mile radius. And to get extra donations, we'd tell them we'd cover up the church. And it worked, we got extra donations because we survived on donations for a long time. Like he said, we had boot drives. On Heritage Day, we used to get out here and sell hot dogs and hamburgers. But it got to the point where we couldn't get enough volunteers to stay with us. We get so busy at lunchtime, there'd be 2 of us trying to feed all them people, and they'd be lined up across the road. So we finally had to quit it because we couldn't get enough people to volunteer. But at least we're making an effort. And it's coming back, I mean, with the recruits that we're getting. And the key is just getting them to show up for training. That's the challenge. We can get people to volunteer, but they don't always show up for training. With some of these new recruits, we've already had like 3 different classes just on pumping the truck. We go up here to the truck body shop, where Tyson's got the truck body shop. They got a hydrant. We can take our deck gun and we can shoot water all the way to the road. And we teach the guys how to knock down like a grass fire out in the field. We do it with the deck gun twice as fast when we string the hose, but we don't like to come back here and clean that hose up. I get ill when I see it come back and it's all black and we got to get out there and clean it. Climb up there and take that deck gun and just wash that field. We got tankers coming. We can call them and have tankers coming. But that truck's going to pump down real quick. 1,500 gallons is gone. But we got that thing set so we can sweep a field. We can hit it and it'll drop water all the way across the field. We can knock it down real quick. And we can do car fires that way too. We can shoot a straight bore on.
Something he noted there also, that we got hit in Cherokee County on the ISO evaluation, where we showed a roster of 100 volunteers or so, 100 plus volunteers. You can only show records of 30 or 40 that's responding to calls and training. That hurts. We lost points because you're showing 70 that's not even coming to training or responding to calls. So if you build up your roster, it hurts if they're not active. That makes sense. So we learned real quick. We just don't submit those names on the roster. You just take them off your roster for evaluation because it'll count against you. So that's the reason we need people to come in that's active and participate. Be here on the training night so you can get logged onto that roster. So I just want to mention that, to be careful with that. It hurts if you got a big roster but they're not responding and they're not coming to training.
We don't have to worry about a big roster.
Just saying, we get it there, we got to be careful. They need to be active. So.
What percentage of time do they spend with you training, and then you said they go down to Forsyth for certification?
But they have the opportunity to go to Forsyth to take additional training, but the counties usually around us will have a firefighting class, usually around the borders, once a year.
Okay.
But like I say, the last 2 we got into class, one quit the first night, one didn't last the first week. So you can get a lot of people to volunteer, but the biggest part of it just want to drive a truck.
Yeah.
That's the first thing they say, want to drive a truck. Don't want to fight fire, just want to drive a truck. We can't just let them get in one of the trucks and take off. I mean, they're too expensive. So we have to get them through the certification to be a firefighter.
The Georgia Fire Academy is down in Forsyth, Georgia, and everything is coordinated through the Fire Academy and firefighter standards and training. All right. Let's say the basic firefighter course used to be called Mod 1. It's a 40-hour course. You could go down to the academy. Anybody that's in a fire department and signed up, any fire department can sponsor that member to go down and take any class they want to take at the Fire Academy. And they offer a huge curriculum. Just by being in the fire department, it don't cost anything. I mean, they've got places, they got dorms down there they can stay in, everything. If they got the time, they can go down there. If you can go to the Fire Academy. But the Fire Academy also field delivers those classes. They can come 2 hours a night. If it's a 40-hour class, 2 hours a week. It'll take you 20 weeks to do that. But those can be broke out. It takes a long time to do that. And that's really what we've been doing in the county with our firefighter class with volunteers. Is we'll deliver that basic course 2 to 4 hours a week. It just takes weeks to get there, if that makes sense. So there's options. You can take it at the local level if we're hosting it, spread out over a big period of time, or if you've got a week that you can take off and go down to the Fire Academy and knock it out in 1 week, that option's there. I understand right now, I attended the joint conference last week of the Georgia Fire Chiefs and the Georgia Firefighter Association, and the Standards and Training Council is looking to start delivering district training sessions again. And that was done back in the 70s a lot, coming into a district, and we're in what's called Area 6 for Northwest Georgia. But they're looking to start that back up again to help even on the volunteer side. So there's a lot of options to get that training. But the fire academy's down there. You know, if you sign up with a fire department, you know, you can go down and take anything they offer. It don't cost anything, just a trip down there. So I don't know if that makes sense or help explain that.
It does, thank you.
There's different ways to get the training that's required. It's just how ingenious you can get with it.
Anything else? Okay, gentlemen, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Very much so.
Thank you.
Grant lives in the town of Talking Rock, and as you can see on the public hearing which is posted, I won't read this whole thing, but basically, Mr. O'Brien is requesting a variance on our 5-acre variance that we had. He's requesting 2 acres. We found out during the working group that this is contingent on him purchasing the additional acreage, or the additional size to meet the 2-acre variance that he is requesting. This is, the council will hear appeal filed by Mitchell O'Brien, case TR 001 at 635 Spearin Road in Ball Ground, Georgia. That's where he currently resides. This property here is in Talking Rock. And it is lot 191 and 192 in the 12th district of the 2nd section of Pickens County. So basically that's what the variance is for, okay? Any questions, concerns? Okay, do I have a motion to accept the variance for the 2-acre request for Mr. O'Brien?
I make a motion that we accept the variance for the 2-acre request for Mr. O'Brien.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes, sir.
For a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor? All right, 4 out of the 5
Were you opposed or abstaining?
opposed, I'm sorry. So 1 opposed, 4 abstained. Okay, all right. Next on the agenda is the millage rate. And Don, if you can just give us a little update and then I'll do the motion.
Okay, the millage rate was I was assisted by Miranda McDowell in Nelson. And she worked up the numbers. We did 2.002, which last year was just 2. So it's basically the same.
Same as last year.
Same as last year.
Okay. All right, any questions or comments about the millage rate? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the millage rate for the town of Talking Rock of 2.002 for 2022?
I make a motion that we approve the millage rate of 2.002.
Okay, do I have a second? All in favor? Okay, awesome. Unanimous vote. All right, next is building inspector update. Mr. Tony Hawf, sir, any updates on inspecting?
Well, nothing to really update on building inspections, but me and Dawn talked briefly today about, I think we're gonna work on trying to streamline our permits and stuff like that and get everything online a little bit better. After we get all this Heritage Day stuff behind us, we'll probably work on that a little bit.
Okay, awesome. Next on the agenda, town improvement updates. I think we talked about it in our working session. I don't know if there's anything else to talk about. Okay. All right, before we end, next council meeting, working session is Thursday, 3 November 2022 at 5:30 p.m. Followed by our council meeting at 7 o'clock. Again, this is our last council meeting before our Heritage Days. Our Heritage Days is next weekend, the 15th and 16th of October. We ask you to come out. It's going to be a fabulous time. We put a lot of effort into it and we're really excited about it. So we're really looking forward for the town of Talking Rock. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Do I have a motion to end the meeting?
A motion to end the meeting.
That second?
A second.